Greetings, fellow oil pigs. Garrick, the mighty oil pig here. Today we're visiting the central Texas town of Luling. Luling started as a railroad terminus, then it was a hardscrabble cotton town for many years, and that all changed in 1922 when a large oil field was discovered northwest of town. In this video, we're going to stop by Luling's downtown visitor center, where they have some old equipment preserved. We'll learn some new things at the Luling Oil Museum, and we'll try to find the discovery well, where it all started. And we'll get to know two men who will forever be associated with the discovery of the Luling field. So, come on, stay with me. The geologic explanation proffered in this diorama is very simplified, but that's okay. It sure is fun to watch. This is the first of two men we're going to meet today. Edgar Byram Davis was born in Massachusetts. He was a businessman. He made some money in shoes. Later, he invested in rubber trees in Sumatra, and he made a good bit of money there as well. You can always rewind and pause the video if you want to read these displays. His brother Oscar bought some oil leases in Luling. When Oscar died, Edgar bought the leases from his brother's estate, because Edgar was confident there was oil to be found. After drilling several dry holes and on the verge of bankruptcy, the well named Rafael Rios No. 1 blew in on August 9, 1922. Let's try to figure out what's going on in this display. We see that we have a wooden derrick, which is period correct for 1922, and we have several lengths of pipe. The well has been plumbed to a tank, and the rotary table has been taken away. I deduce that this scene occurred after drilling and as the completion phase was finishing up. Completion refers to the step after drilling when the well is being prepared to produce oil and/or gas. Production tubing has been installed, and indeed, oil is already flowing. Note that oil is flowing even though no pump is present. In this case, reservoir pressure is driving fluids to the surface. A wellhead will be installed next, and the derrick will be disassembled and moved to the next well. When you hear about oil wells, especially from the early days, do you notice how the wells often have people's names? Where do those names come from? Those names come from the owner of the land beneath which the oil was found. Which brings us to this man, Rafael Rios. I apologize profusely for the lousy pictures of these documents. Ideally, I'd be able to scan them, but I'm not allowed to take displays from the museum to scan them. In 1889, Rafael and his brother bought land in the Luling area. In 1893, 4 years later, the land was paid off and divided between the two brothers. They continued farming and ranching on the land. Recall that oil in paying quantities was discovered in 1922, some 33 years after buying the property. By my calculation, Rafael Rios was 68 years old when oil was discovered on his property. Rios died in 1926, so it sounds like he had a good retirement of 4 years. This family history, written by a descendant of Mr. Rios, is an excellent chronology of Mr. Rios' descendants. Please pause the video to read the whole thing, but one paragraph is so important that I thought it needs to be read into the record. As the descendants of this humble man that made it possible for many of the Rios, Ruiz, Mendez, Ariz Mendez, and Castillo to further their education and become doctors, pharmacists, nurses, teachers, professors, masters, and PhDs. Thank you, great-grandfather Rafael Rios and the Rafael Rios No. 1. Let's try to find the site of the Rafael Rios No. 1 well. I understand there's a historical marker. Let's try to find this historical marker. Let's wait for traffic to pass here. We found the marker, but it seems the well was not actually at this spot. We have to read the fine print here. According to this, its true location is 0.8 miles north of here on Farm Road 671. Let's try to find the true location. I think I see something up here on the left. Let's get parked and go check this out. Yes, this is it. Before we depart Luling, let's pay our respects to Mr. Davis. Edgar B. Davis is interred on the premises of the Ascension Seton Edgar B. Davis Hospital. This was formerly the site of Mr. Davis's home. I believe he donated the land and some money to build the hospital. As we're driving home, there's a little quiz. I know, I didn't tell you there'd be a quiz. I'm sorry. In what year was oil found in economic quantities in the Luling area? The discovery well was drilled in 1922. What was happening in the broad economy in 1922? The Roaring Twenties was starting, automobiles were common, and they needed gasoline. What do we learn from the Rafael Rios story? We learn, never sell your mineral rights. It's probably too late to take that advice now, but it's still good advice. If you're a descendant of Rafael Rios and you're willing to share your story with YouTube, I'd love to talk to you. If you learned something in this video, please poke the thumbs up button. You're not committing to anything. I invite you to subscribe to the channel. More great stuff is in the works. Until next time, you're not hurting others by helping yourself.